Welcome back to Next Generation. In today's video, we are going to be repurposing a mirror to make it look beautiful.
So this is an exciting one because one of our first ever DIYs years ago, probably like 7 years ago, was our first ever DIY where we repurposed a mirror. So this is going to be a way better, way nicer version of our first ever DIY. I'm excited.
I'm very excited because reminiscing back on our first DIY, that mirror actually came out pretty good.
It did. So this mirror that we got was left in our home from the previous owners who lived here. So it's a large and nice mirror, but there's no frame around it. The mirror's just been hanging on the wall with a bunch of these little clips, not looking nice at all. So we're gonna change that today.
How do you remember that?
I remember it all. You can always get a mirror probably on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Goodwill, thrift stores,
yes,
People's Trash. You can get a mirror, but also they sell them at Target and Walmart.
All right, so first up, the materials. Very important here. First thing you're gonna need is a 4x8 sheet of plywood. We went with 1/2 inch thick because our mirror is a 1/4 inch thick, so it was a perfect thickness for what we're trying to do here, and you'll see why.
You'll also need something to build the frame. So we would recommend just 1x4s for this.
Yep.
We want to use scrap wood that we already have at home to save money. So we just have a 1/4 inch thick bead board that we used for a previous DIY that we're just gonna cut down into 4-inch boards. So basically like a 1x4, but thinner.
We're gonna do 1/4x4.
Yeah.
So you will also need liquid nails and D-rings.
And then it's optional to use a nail gun and a router. If you don't have those two, we're gonna show you how to do this without it, but if you have it, this is just gonna elevate it that much more.
Oh yeah.
And then the best part of the materials, which triggered this whole idea for me, are peel and stick tiles. So
nice.
You can get whatever type you would like. You can get peel and stick wallpaper. You can use paint, stain, anything that you would like for the finish of the frame of your mirror. So I just got this at Walmart. Just kidding, I didn't get this at Walmart. I got this on Amazon, and I'll link it down below along with everything else. But I had you guys vote on 2 different tiles on Instagram. So make sure you're following us on there so you can have an input and a first look at our DIYs.
You don't want to miss out. All right guys, so let's get into the process here. We'll start with step 1.
So step 1 is to cut your plywood. So we had ours cut at Lowe's for free. We recommend this because a sheet of plywood is not fun to cut on your own.
And it's not fun to move around when it's 4x8.
No. So basically we measured our mirror, and since we want a 4-inch frame around it, I guess is what we're gonna call it, we're gonna add 4 inches on each side. So adding 8 inches to the width and 8 inches to the height. And that's what you're gonna have it cut at.
All right, so once you have your backboard cut to size, we're gonna use our mirror as a template. We're gonna put it on the plywood. We're gonna trace out the mirror, and now we know what we need to route out.
Make sure you measure the 4 inches so that you have the mirror centered. Don't just throw it on your plywood and trace it.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we've traced out where our mirror is gonna go, this is the part that's optional to use a router. If you don't have one, for this step, you would just glue your mirror directly onto the plywood. But if you do have a router, we are gonna route out a little space for our mirror to sit inside of the plywood instead of on top of the plywood. Hope that makes sense.
Basically, what we want is our mirror to sit flush with the plywood. Our mirror is a 1/4 inch thick, so we're gonna route out a 1/4 inch of that wood. Now remember, our plywood's 1/2 inch thick, so we're only routing out about half of that.
So now that you've made a mess routing,
there's a lot of routing.
We're gonna move on to attaching our D-rings or whatever you're using to hang up your mirror on the back.
All right, so I was a little concerned because this is all really heavy, and I didn't want to just use the screws. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a combination of the screws with some nuts and bolts. This way it just has more to hold on to, and I don't have to worry about the hangers coming out the back of the mirror and the mirror falling and crashing to the ground. I'm gonna pre-drill a hole for the bolt to go through, and I also want the bolt to sit flat, so you're gonna see me use 2 different size drill bits. One is for the bolt to go through, the second one is for the head of the bolt to sit flush with the plywood. One tip, make sure when you're using the bigger drill bit to not go all the way through, because now your bolt's gonna go all the way through. All right, so we've got our holes drilled. We're ready to attach the D-rings or whatever hanger that you're using.
First, we're going to put the bolt into the holes that we made.
Yep.
We're gonna flip the plywood over on the back, and we're gonna attach the D-ring using the nut and the bolts that we just put in there. And then we're gonna add the one screw to the bottom that the D-ring came with. So it's got a nut and bolt and screw.
It's got the whole 9 yards.
It goes nowhere.
The next step, we're going to glue the mirror in place and let it dry for a long time to make sure it's fully cured and dry, it's secure, it's safe to work with, and it's in place.
We'd even suggest clamping it into place so that everything is as secure as possible as the glue dries.
All right, so we don't want to put pressure on the mirror itself. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run some wood across the mirror and clamp it to the plywood on the back. And this way, I won't have pressure on the mirror, but I'll still be pushing the mirror in place to allow it to dry, so that if the liquid nail tries to expand the mirror, we don't have to worry about it not sitting flush, because that's the whole goal here.
Moving on to our 4-inch frame.
Yes.
We're gonna go ahead and use a circular saw to cut out our 4-inch strips.
Yep.
But if you're using 1x4s, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And attach that using wood glue and our nail gun. If you don't have a nail gun, just use liquid nails and clamp down your frame.
Yep.
And we do want the frame to overlap the mirror just a little bit, like a 1/4 inch or a hair over the mirror, just because number one, our mirror has a few chips on the edges, but also to again hold the mirror in place even more secure, because it's gonna have that lip around the edge. So now that we have all the wood finished for our frame, I'm going to paint the edges.
Oh, I like that.
Just to make it look finished.
That's a great idea. I didn't think about that, but that's something that you're gonna notice.
So if you want this inside part of your mirror painted, I would recommend painting that before you attach the boards. And as for the side, I'm just gonna cover it up with black paint, but you can buy something that you just iron on right over this. I'll put a picture here so you can see what I'm talking about, but you can iron that onto the side so that you don't see any of the sides of the boards if that bothers you. But I'll show you how it looks if you just paint it. Hopefully it looks fine. You can always just get a little sample paint from the hardware store.
Good tip.
Or just a little acrylic paint from Michael's, super inexpensive.
Yep, and it's just enough.
Now for the fun part.
To decorate this thing. You excited?
Yep.
All right,
So you're probably wondering, how are you gonna use this on a 4-inch frame?
Well, let me tell you.
We're gonna cut it.
That's right.
So we're gonna use probably about 4. I think that's what we measured out. This is gonna be fun.
Yes.
I'm excited.
It's gonna bring it together too. It's gonna look really nice. All right, we've got a finished mirror. The only thing left to do is to hang it on the wall so that we can enjoy it and actually use it, right?
Yeah.
Well, the key here is to find the studs. Hopefully you have studs that line up. We've got set hangers, so we don't really have any flexibility. So if we can't find the studs, I'm gonna have to run to the hardware store and get some super heavy duty anchors to make sure that it can hold up at least 50 pounds. Make sure you get the right anchors here. If you can't find the studs, please be sure to read the label. It tells you what the anchors are rated for as far as weight, and you need to make sure that this is accurate, otherwise it's going to come out the wall. Yeah, so read the label, make sure you calculated the weight properly, and if you can't find the studs, it's okay. The anchors will work if they're the right weight for your mirror. Whoa!
Wow!
I might just to be looking at myself forever now.
I love how it ended up coming out so much better than before.
It is. It's a big upgrade to the mirror, honestly. I mean, it was just this standalone mirror. It looked bare, and now
it's
classy. Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I would buy this in the store.
So leave your ideas down below on what you would use for your frame. I would love to hear because there's so many ideas you could do with this.
There really are. You could get crazy with it if you wanted.
And you guys should check out our first ever DIY, which we actually filmed before Next Generation was even born.
Oh, that's true. This was really early.
This was so long ago.
I think this is before Jen even knew how to use a hand tool.
I didn't. You did all the work.
Yeah, but you did all the designing.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye guys.